So we're finding this space on our back for a particular reason tonight. So as you're settling in, maybe a nice deep inhale, a longer exhale to settle into the weight of the body. One of the ways we can spark a relaxation response is to put deep pressure on the back side of the body, the torso in particular. And so we're going to start in this position. We're going to do a little bit of breathing in this position. We'll move through our poses tonight. We are going to do a few yen poses at the end of class, and then we'll finish up with some relaxation. So settling in here, noticing where you're connected to your mat. Maybe it's the back of the head. Perhaps it's the shoulder blades, the spine, the pelvis. For some of us, we may feel the backs of the legs. Some of us may have the soles of the feet on the mat. And taking a moment here just to notice what's present for you. It might be thoughts, it might be sensation, it might be emotion. We're just trying, if we can, to notice. As one of my favorite teachers says, what's the weather like in there? And we're noticing, if we can, with curiosity. Trying to leave all those questions of the hows and the whys and the oh no, what ifs out of it for at least this hour. This awareness of sensation, this noticing with curiosity, is one of the ways we build our skills of really uncovering these layers to bring that to the surface. Maybe it is sensation, perhaps it's thoughts, perhaps it's emotion. And really take that next step back to just be the witness, to not really get involved in all of the story of it. And it is a skill, and it's a skill we build over time and that requires practice. So sometimes it feels accessible, sometimes it feels not accessible at all. And I could say, you know, in times when I'm elevated, it's really tough to tune in. And if you're finding that's the case for you tonight, one of maybe the more accessible ways is to tune into breath. So without changing the breath, we might begin to notice the breath. And we're going to work our way through some qualities of breath tonight that help bring us into that physical body, to help keep us present, and more than anything, help quiet that thinking mind. So as you're breathing in and out, maybe we notice if there is sound to your breath. That sound might be only audible to you. It might be audible to the room. Does the in and out breath have sound? And then noticing perhaps if there is smell that's present with that in and out breath. Bringing awareness to the path the breath is traveling. So as you inhale, where do you feel that breath go? Where is there perhaps expansion or inflation? And as you exhale, is there a sense of release or ease that comes with that exhale? So we inhale into expansion and exhale into ease. And this idea of breathing into expansion can really assist us in our practice. So as we're going through our physical practice tonight, we're going to bring a little bit of more awareness, this witnessing to the breath, to the expansion, and then maybe inviting more ease with the exhale, with the release. Let's just do a couple more breaths here. When you're ready, if you will, reaching arms overhead and stretching legs nice and long, taking the deepest breath you can draw in, and perhaps hold it there for just a small amount of time and let it go out the mouth. We're going to do that one more time. Inhaling deeply. Deepest breath you can bring in, pausing there, holding for a moment, and exhaling to release. Let's bend and soften knees. We're going to leave arms overhead. Now, if you need to modify, you can bring those hands out into a T. We're going to do a little bit of warm up here for the legs, for the hip structure, and for the back. And it's going to feel maybe a little bit more like we're getting a little warm up here for Pilates, if you've ever taken Pilates. But it's a great way to stretch that back, to get some things to fire in the back side of the body. So when you are ready, take a deep inhale. On your exhale, we're going to press our hands down by our side and lift our hips. Now, if your arms are into a T, you can bring them up towards the ceiling on this. We'll inhale to let arms come back overhead and hips come back down. We're going to do 5 of these. So we're going to exhale to press, lift hips. We're trying to keep that weight between the shoulder blades. Inhale, arms reach overhead. Let's do that 3 more times. Exhale, press, hands lift hips. Inhale, lower hips, arms reach overhead. A great way to warm up shoulders too. Last 2 times. Exhale, press. Inhale, lower back down. And one last time, we're going to exhale, press. For now, leave your hands right there. We'll let our spine melt down back to the ground, 1 vertebrae at a time. So we have hands down by our side, hips come to rest. And I'm going to ask you to make some snow angels, or carpet angels in this case. So we'll reach hands out, turning palms up. They're going to reach up and overhead like you're making a snow angel. And then they slide back down. So right now, only arms are moving. We're going to inhale, arms reach up and overhead. And exhale, both hands slide down by your side. 3 more times. Inhale, reaching. We might feel some sense of stretch, release through the arm, through the front of the chest. Exhale as hands come back down. 2 more. Inhale, reaching arms up and overhead. Exhale, hands come back down. 1 last time. Inhale, arms reach up and overhead. Exhale, let them come on back down. 1 more shoulder warm up while we're resting on the floor. We've done this seated before. We're going to clasp our hands, long arms and shoulders melt into your mat. So when you exhale, we're going to press knuckles up towards the ceiling without straining head or neck. And as we inhale, we just let shoulder blades melt right back into the mat. We're going to exhale, press knuckles up. Inhale, letting shoulders relax. Warming up all this muscle over and under the shoulder blade. We exhale, press. Inhale. Exhale, press. And inhale, letting hands come to rest down by your side. We're going to draw both knees into the chest. Give a little rock side to side. We'll kick feet straight up towards the ceiling. Doesn't matter if you get straight legs. And then we'll bend knees to lower and back down. Just a little bit of core work here. We're going to kick feet up towards the ceiling. Plus it warms up the tops of those thighs that we're going to use in our standing poses, and bend those knees. Let's do 3 more. Kicking up and bending in. We might think about exhaling and drawing that belly in as we kick feet up towards the ceiling.
And inhale to bend knees one last time. Exhale, kicking up. And inhale, bending knees. Stretch one leg long, doesn't matter which leg. Opposite knee is coming in. We're going to interlace fingers behind the thigh. On your next exhale, if your neck allows, we're going to exhale to lift the nose as we draw the knees in. One knee, sorry, and inhale, rest the head. Now it's an option to keep the head down the whole time. We're going to exhale, lift head, knee comes in a little closer. Inhale, lower down just one more time. Exhale, drawing in. Inhale, lowering head down. We're going to go ahead and take that knee and draw it across the body. So we're using the opposite hand to pull it across the body into a little twist here. And an appropriate twist. So you might not end up going too far. You might end up with the knee all the way over to the floor. Your back is going to lead the way here. That hip structure is going to let you know what it needs and how far you would like to go. One more deep inhale. As you exhale, let that leg return to center. Send it nice and long. We're going to switch sides. Other knee draws in. We hang on behind that thigh. If it's okay for the neck, we're going to do those 3 lifts again. So we'll lift. That nose comes towards the knee, and then we lower the head back down 2 more times. Exhale to draw in. Inhale to lower back down 1 more time. Exhale to draw in. Inhale to lower down. We're going to take the opposite hand and draw the knee all the way across the body. Letting your back and your hip be your guide. Just breathing deeply here. Noticing maybe expansion and release. Breathing into a space, noticing where that space expands. And as we exhale, is it possible to sense more ease or release coming into that space? With your next exhale, knee comes back to center. We're going to send that leg nice and long. 1 more time, arms reach overhead. So our body is as long as we can get it. And I'm going to ask you to walk your feet and your hands off to the right side. So I keep my buns and shoulders on, but I'm going to walk my hands, or my arms more accurately, and my heels over to the right side. So I feel some expansion through that left side body. Now, if we were standing, this would be very much like our moon salutation, or maybe the sensation we get when we're doing triangle. Once again, if arms overhead is really difficult for those shoulders, you're working with a shoulder injury, just keeping those arms out into a T. If you've taken yen with me, this looks very much like our banana asana. We're not going to hold it that long today, but I do like it for its side release and side opener, especially if you have been seated for a long period of time today. We'll come on back through center. We're going to move to the other side. So this time we walk heels and arms that are overhead off to that left side. Pausing here for 4 breaths, breathing into that expansion. Exhaling into release or ease. Great stretch for mystery low back pain and top ridge of the shoulder tightness. So releasing some really chronic areas here that influence how we feel in our low back and how we feel in our neck and shoulders. Let's come on back through center. We're going to bend knees, arms come around to wrap around those knees. If it's okay for your back, we're going to start to rock and roll a little bit. So we'll get that spinal massage. Doesn't have to look too fancy. If that's not okay for back, we just slowly roll to the side and come up to sit. 1 more time. When you're ready, we're going to shift to our hands and knees. So you can cross those ankles or swing those feet around. Coming onto palms and knees, or maybe our fists, if that feels better in those wrists. We're going to work our active cat-cow tonight. So the idea here, if it doesn't bug your toes, go ahead and tuck your toes. If it does, just leave them pointed. On your exhale, we're going to round our back, shift our weight back towards those heels. On my inhale, bend, soften the elbows, draw my heart through those thumbs. and let my chin rise. So as I exhale, I round. Now, if this movement feels interesting to you, you can just do a regular cat-cow where we stay put and move that spine. Bend elbows, draw heart, inhaling as you lift chin. 2 more of those. Exhale to press. This gentle rocking of the body also inspires that relaxation response in the body. Last time we'll do this. Inhale, drawing back through center. We come back to tabletop. Go ahead and point the toes. So we'll let those toes go. If you will, we're going to start to shake our tail from side to side. So really thinking again about that lateral opening, that side body opening. Just a little bit bigger if it makes sense. You might even make it so far over that your hip is resting on the floor. Doesn't have to be that big. Just getting a sense of a little movement through pelvis and through spine. We're going to do 1 more on each side. We'll come on back through center. We'll take your right foot. Right foot comes between the hands, and then we're going to stair step up. So we have these 90 degrees, both knees making 90 degrees. And what I'm going to ask you to do, it's a real subtle move, and it might be hard to see, but we're going to tuck our tailbone. So as I tuck, I increase the stretch to the front of my thigh, or the knee that's on the floor, and letting hands just press down through that knee. So pausing here to get this really big stretch through this thick muscle, those quads, and maybe even a little bit of stretch into that crease of the thigh. Just a few more breaths here. I'm going to ask you to lift the opposite arm. So your left arm reaches up. I'm going to end up turning away from you. We're going to send it to the back, and I'm going to follow with my gaze unless that makes me feel unbalanced. And then I'm going to leave my gaze steady and forward. So exhaling, twisting, reaching that left arm back. Inhale. Now you can get some reference through that right hand. You can give it a good push through that inner thigh. So you have an opportunity to ground. That will help balance. We're going to do 1 more of these. We're going to exhale to twist. Inhale, we come right back through center. Go ahead and bring the hands down. We're going to shift weight to that back knee. So we start to straighten this leg. Now, some of you might be a little bit higher, especially if hip is constricting here. You're in hard compression. Not important to get the leg straight, important to have some sense of opening, release, stretch, resistance, tension through that back hamstring area. If you happen to get your legs straight, you're welcome to flex that foot. That increases the stretch all the way through the heel, maybe even a little bit of the arch of the foot. Breathing fully here. We're going to bend then into that front knee. Bring both knees back to join each other. Give your tailbone a little shake, a little tail feather shake there. We're going to switch sides. That left foot comes forward. We stair step up. If you need a little more balance, foot can walk out towards that outside edge. For now, that tiny tailbone tuck to increase the stretch through the front of that thigh. Pressing palms into that thigh to give yourself a little bit of grounding. We'll reach the right arm up, and when you're ready, I'm going to give myself a little push through that front knee as I twist to look over my shoulder. My arm reaches back. Inhale, up through center. Exhale, twist. Inhaling up through center. Exhale, twist. One last time. Inhale up through center. Exhale, twist. We'll swing that arm back around. Hand comes to the floor. We start to shift weight to straighten or get a sense of stretch through that front leg, that left leg. If we get it straight, we might pull toes back. Fully breathing here and noticing sensation if we can, tuning in. What does it feel like in the back of that thigh? Maybe we tune back into breath. Where are we feeling our breath expand into? When you're ready, shifting weight to the front foot,
We're going to send that knee back and we'll go into our child's pose. So for some of us, we're going to get those hips back to the heels, heads resting or resting on stacked fists. For some of us, knees and back don't agree to that. So be on elbows, dropping head as we round the back. 4 more breaths in child's pose. One more deep inhale and exhale, maybe breathing into that back space of the body. And then we'll rise up to tabletop. We're gonna come on up to stand. Doesn't have to be fancy. We are gonna find our mountain pose. So tonight, let's give ourselves 3 fingers between those big toes. Just about 3 fingers as you look down, and we'll rock forward and back, giving some deep pressure to those feet, but also trying to find the entire surface of that foot. And then maybe we roll inside and out. Pinky toe and big toe. And we'll let the soles of the feet land, noticing from the inside edge toe to that back heel, wrap it all the way around the toe to that front pinky. See if you can feel the entire surface of your foot. Softening the knees, but still feeling the strength in the legs. That softening of the knees also helps soften through that low back area, a little bit of the glute area. We'll draw shoulders up, back, and down. Palms can face forward or the thighs, whichever way feels best to you. And just taking a moment here to get connected. So one of the skills we practice is grounding through the soles of the feet. And really, that's great for this hour, and it's super helpful for our standing poses. But what would be wonderful if it could translate into our lives? If we are standing in long lines, if we are out and about in our world and there's a bit of chaos happening around us, pausing in your version of mountain pose in that moment to sense the feet, to sense the strength of your legs, that long, tall, strong spine, those shoulders melting away from the ears, is a nice way to recenter, reground, so the chaos of what may be happening outside of you affects you less. When you're ready, we're going to bring our hands to our heart. We'll move through our halfway lift. So inhale, fingertips reach. Either swan diving or rounded back. Rounded back protects that back as we come forward. We'll press hands either into shins or thighs. Inhale into that flat back. As we exhale, we release down, looking through the legs. Arms reach wide. As we inhale, we rise back up. And exhale, hands come to heart. Just 2 more of those. Inhale, fingertips reach. Exhale, soft-bent knees as we dive forward. Inhale, press into shins or thighs. Do skip those knees as we rise up, halfway lift. Exhale, release back down. Arms reach wide as we inhale to rise back up. And exhale, hands come to heart. Last time, inhale. Exhale, soft bent knees or swan dive. We press into those shins or thighs. Inhale, halfway lift. As we exhale this time, hanging out here for a moment, grabbing hold of the opposite arm with the palm or the opposite elbow. If you like to do ragdoll, you can swing around here. Maybe you prefer to be still. You might have straight legs or soft bent knees. We're going to send our palms to just above our knees as we halfway lift. So I'm coming up into my flat back. I'm going to take a bit of a seat. So I'm shifting through my seat and letting my torso rise. A small chair pose, not as deep as we might go in a regular practice here. We haven't quite warmed up those thighs quite as much as we would like, but just a small chair pose. We'll bring hands to heart and noticing how this feels. So we're getting information. Could we tuck our tailbone, protect that back? Does it bother our knees and do we need to come higher? Or could we go deeper in our chair pose? Only you know the answer. We're going to take and bring our arms only into cactus arms for now. We'll squeeze those shoulder blades together, opening that heart and really paying attention to that belly. Try not to arch the back. We'd like to tuck the tailbone and draw that core in. Really getting some firing up through those quads on your next exhale. We fold forward. Placing hands on shins or thighs. Inhale, halfway lift. On your exhale, going maybe just a little deeper if possible, looking through those legs, arms reach wide. We inhale to rise back up. Exhale, hands come to heart. We're going to take a big step back with your right foot, the foot that's closest to the lotus wall. So taking that big step back, hips are facing forward. We're going to bend into that front knee. Knee always tells the truth here. If the knee goes beyond that ankle, you may want to step back a little further with this back leg. For now, hands on hips, rotating forward. And we're just going to pause here to see if we can solidify the soles of the feet back to that grounding. Once you feel like you've got the soles of those feet really nicely connected, we've got some options: cactus arms or our warrior one arms, where arms are reaching and shoulders are melting down. Breathing fully here, that tiny tailbone tuck like we practiced at the beginning of class can help increase the stretch that you're feeling through the front of the thigh. Also protects that back. That tailbone tuck is really important. We want to make sure we don't let all our poses land in that low back. Hands come back to heart. And we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to straighten the front leg and we'll take a nice little deep forward fold. So maybe we come to this space, we're at an angle. Perhaps we're able to go just a little bit deeper. It might feel better for you to be even higher with hands at hips. So opening this hip structure, holding here, drawing that belly in, breathing into the space that we've created. When you're ready, bend into the front knee, rise back up. We're going to go into our warrior two. So now my hips are going to open up without changing that front knee. Knee still tracking over second toe. Arms reach, and I look over my front fingers. Still tucking tailbone, still noticing soles of those feet, those strong legs holding us here in our warrior two. One more breath here. We'll bring hands to heart, and we're going to see if we can take one big step to make it back to the front of our mat, which helps us practice our balance. And we're going to switch sides. Big step back with that left foot. Left foot steps back and we test it out. How's it look in that knee? Do we need to step a little further back? Hands to hip and rotating hips towards the front of your mat. And pausing here to get grounded through feet. See if you can feel the entire sole of each foot. Tucking that tailbone, options again, cactus arms or warrior one arms. Pausing to breathe fully here. These longer holds are to find all those little tweaks. What could we change to make us sense it deeper or to sense it in the way that we prefer? Maybe the message we're getting is we need to change it. If we need to change it, feel free to do that. We'll let hands swing around behind your back. So some of us are going to be able to clasp our knuckles. Some of us are going to feel better just about hanging out with one finger or holding onto wrists a little bit higher. Straightening your front leg, we take that little forward fold and we begin to notice where we want to go. Now, if I have my hands clasped, I might be pushing my knuckles down towards my tailbone. If I go a little bit deeper and that makes sense for me, I might even reach my arms up towards the ceiling for a shoulder opener. Now, if you're holding onto finger or wrist, we're going to leave those elbows to really just drop towards the floor. Finding that space that works for you.
Let's bring hands back to hips, bend into your front knee. We open the hips without changing that front knee. Warrior two, reaching arms, looking over, fingertips, tucking tailbone, drawing that belly a little closer to the spine. Big poses to really wear out those large muscles. Hands come to hips. We're going to take both toes and turn them in the same direction. Some of you might go wider. Some of you might come closer. My knee folks, make sure you protect your knees by turning your toes out. Your knees will follow. If knees aren't an issue for you tonight, we can have those outer edges parallel to your mat. On your exhale, softly rounding the back. Some of us are going to soften knees and pause right above the knees, resting the elbows. Some of us are going to dive a little bit deeper, depending on our hip structure and flexibility, to let the head drop. There may be a few of us who get our hands to the mat, and if that's the case, send your fingers to the back of the mat, reaching through the legs. Shifting your weight more towards the front of your feet or finding the balance between the heel and the ball of the foot. Breathing into expansion, exhaling into release. One more breath here. On your next exhale, slowly start to round up, placing those hands right on the crease of your hips. We're going to go ahead and heel toe our feet closer together until they're about maybe 2 feet apart. I'm going to ask you to turn your toes out this time. We're getting ready to stimulate this master gland, the pituitary gland. Just a reminder, nobody can see you, including me right now. So you can make the biggest face that you want. The idea is that we cross our eyes and look at the top of our brow. We stick our tongue out and we exhale vigorously. It looks like this. We're going to add in a little bit of movement to that. So when you're ready, arms reach long, like you're taking up some space here, and more of a pentacle, 5-pointed star. Let's go ahead, bend elbows, bend knees, tucking tailbone. We'll inhale, lift back up. Now we add our lion's face on the exhale. Tongue sticks out. We cross our eyes. Exhale vigorously. Here we go. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale. Inhale, lengthen. 2 more. Exhale. Inhale. Last time. Exhale. Inhale, lengthen. Hands come to heart. We'll go ahead and we'll bring our feet to walk towards each other, stepping to the front of your mat, getting ready to find your mountain pose. We are going to move through a balance from our mountain pose. So if you're on a squishy mat or you need something to hold on to, a wall, top of the couch, a chair, you may want to move over to that before you find your mountain pose. I'm going to let you pick how far or how close you would like your feet. Many traditions do big toes touching with a little space between the heels. Many of us feel more solidly connected with more space. So finding the spot that really feels like it works for you. Softening those knees, just that micro softening, drawing the belly in. We'll leave hands down by the side, either to face forward or palms. If it's helpful, you might draw shoulders up, back, and down. Finding the balance between the left and the right foot. Chin is parallel to the floor. If we want to talk a little energy here, the idea is I have just plugged my feet, just like a plug in the wall. I've plugged them into the earth, and I'm going to draw energy through the soles of my feet, up through my legs from shins, knees, thighs, and hip joints, up through fingers, forearms, elbows, upper arms, and shoulders, front and back of the torso from the bottom of the pelvis all the way up, out through the top of the head. Drawing that energy from source, the earth. 2 more breaths here in our mountain pose.
When you're ready, bringing hands to heart. Now, if tree balance is a favorite of yours, I want to invite you to do tree. I'm going to do a little different balance tonight, and it's going to involve bringing that thigh up. So if thighs are feeling a little either quivery or a little bit tired, you may want to do tree. We're going to go and shift weight to our right foot. My left foot is going to step forward. I'm going to step back here so you can see me. My left foot is going to step forward. I might decide, if my balance is feeling okay, that I can pull my toes off. I might decide that I can draw my knee up and back to tucking tailbone. From the side, we're trying not to shift here. We want to be here with that rounded back and core drawing in. Noticing how that feels for you. When you're ready, we place the foot back down. Now, it also might feel more centering for you to have your arms out rather than at heart. Always feels a little more centering for me to have them at heart. Shifting weight now to the left foot. Right toes come forward. We might be able to peel toes off. We might be able to draw knee up. Keeping this opposite leg strong, but trying not to lock out in that knee joint. A micro softening of that knee is going to work those muscles a lot harder than if we're just hanging out in the joints. Tuck in that tailbone. We'll bring the foot down. We're going to add in. So shifting weight to the right, we bring left toes forward. We might pull toes off. We might draw knee up. Here's the tricky one. We might shift knee out. Pausing here, it might be helpful to hold on to that thigh. It's always harder to hold longer. We're going to shift it forward and see if we can place it back down without stomping. Wait even between the feet before we get ready to do the other side. Now we shift to left. Right foot comes forward. Toes might come off. We might draw knee up. We might shift knee out. Holding for just a little longer. We'll bring knee forward. We'll place foot down. Hands come back down by your side. Give everything a little bounce, a little wiggle, a little shake. We're going to come into a seated position on the floor for just a couple of twists here. So coming to a seat where your legs can be long or your knees might be soft. It's a little hard to see here. You can soften those knees with the legs stretching out in front of you. I'm going to ask you to draw in your right knee. So we're going to bend that knee. Some of us might leave the knee here. Some of us might let it hop over. There may be a few of you who take that bottom leg and bend it in. Now, if bending it in makes your ship list, we want to make sure we keep it nice and long. I'm going to keep mine long tonight. I'm going to take either my palm, my elbow, or the outside of my left elbow. Once I'm there, swing that right hand around and give yourself as deep or as little of a twist as you would like. So this can be very gentle. It can also be pretty deep. If you're deepening it, you can inhale to grow taller. Exhale, use the leverage of palm or elbow to twist you a little bit further. 2 more breaths here in this twist, this wringing out. We'll come on back through center. If you can, let that knee drop out and just give it a little wiggle up and down. We're going to grab hold of that leg where we can. So it might be ankle and knee. Some of us might be able to get it in the crook of elbows. We're drawing it in to rock the baby. Now, if we've got foot and knee, it looks more like this. If we've drawn it in a little bit closer, it looks more like this. This is very much about how your bones are put together in your hip joint. So the closer that gets, it's just how your bones are put together. There's some flexibility in there, but not as much as it relies on how you are put together. We'll stretch that leg nice and long. Give both legs a little wiggle, a little shake from side to side.
We're gonna bend the left knee might, or left foot might stay there. It might hop over. That right leg might bend in. It's totally up to you what makes sense for you as long as your ship isn't listing. We're gonna take that right palm, elbow, or outside of the elbow, left hand rest as we give a good twist. Gently, or perhaps a little more deep. Inhaling and exhaling, twist or twisting to go just a little bit deeper if that's where you want to take your twist tonight. Two more breaths here. And then we'll come on back through center, letting the knee drop out, give it a little bounce, and then we'll rock the baby, grabbing hold of that leg where you can, and we just give it a good little rock, a hip opener here. When you're ready, extending that leg, shake it out, give it a nice little wiggle. We have a couple options for our next one. Some of us may prefer to bring the soles of feet together and do a seated butterfly. Some of us may prefer to rest on our backs and do a reclining butterfly, especially if you're feeling compression in those hip joints. So if that's the case, resting on your back with soles of the feet together. Those of us who are seated will grab hold of ankles or feet and give yourself a little hinge forward. So I have a nice long spine. And I decide how far I want to go. On each exhale, I might get a little bit deeper. And again, the journey is more important than the destination. So we're paying attention to sensation. When we've found the spot that we would like to be, if you're resting on your back, same thing holds true. Give yourself 3 deep inhales and exhales. Breathing into expansion, exhaling into release. When you inhale next, for those of us who are seated, we'll restack our spine. For those of you resting on your back, stay put. We're about to join you. You can draw those knees together. If we're seated, we're going to go ahead and draw our knees together. Give yourself that little hold behind the thighs, and we start to roll ourselves back to rest. Now, one of our yen poses tonight is going to be knees into the chest. And yen means we're holding just a little bit longer. I always like to give options because perhaps knees into chest is a little too compressed for you through the tops of those thighs. If that's the case, the option would be to go into constructive rest pose. It may be difficult to see here, but my feet are as wide as my mat. My knees are dropping towards each other with ease. So that's an option. If knees into the chest is appealing to you, drawing those knees in and making space. So maybe you need a little space for breath, so knees go a little bit wider. Maybe you would prefer to have your knees a little further away from you because it feels uncomfortable to have that soft compression through the belly. Placing those knees in a spot that makes sense. We're going to be here for just 3 minutes. So that 3-minute hold. Those yen poses are meant to target connective tissue. And so here we're really targeting the connective tissue in the back of the leg and the low back, that backside pelvis, the sacral area. So the back of the leg where we have our sits bones, our butt cheeks, we have hamstrings that connect into those particular bones, and they're connected with tendons. And we're hoping to get a little bit more pliable through that connective tissue. There's connective tissue interwoven through all of your muscles. There's connective tissue that we're really targeting in this back side of your pelvis that might be ligament holding bones together. It might be tendon holding muscle to bone. It could be even as superficial as the connective tissue of your skin. The longer we hold it, the more pliable that other half of our tissue will become. So it's great to hold a long time for that reason. We're also doing knees into chest tonight to give ourselves a little deep pressure on the belly. So just like when we began class, we had deep pressure on our back. We're now putting deep pressure on our belly, which can inspire that relaxation response. We're sending messages from the body to the brain that we would like to relax. If at any point during this longer hold you're finding that it's painful, you want to release the hold. It might be uncomfortable, but if it's painful, for sure, that's a message we want to listen to, and that message is telling us to change. So changing something so it's not painful. A moment to observe the breath. So if I have my thighs putting deep pressure on my belly, my breath has to go somewhere. Maybe it's going out into the belly and expanding into my thighs. Maybe I sense it expanding other places. Perhaps that's outside rib cage area or that low back area. Where do you feel expansion? And with the exhale, is there a sense of ease or release? We're going to release into long legs. So stretching those legs nice and long. We come out of compression out of the front of those thighs. I'd like to go into longer holds for a twist, but I'm going to leave the twist up to you tonight. So we might twist with stacked knees, one on top of the other. We might do twisted roots, which I'll talk you through. We might also do that beginning twist we did, where we drew just one knee in and let it fall over. If you're going into twisted roots, we're all going to be dropping to the right side. So the left thigh would cross up and over the right thigh, and then we drop the knees over to the right. Stacked knees to the right, drawing left knee only to go over to the right, or twisted roots, that maybe deeper expression of the twist to come into that space. We've got the knees falling to the right. If you would like to add a double twist to your spine and your neck allows, we'll lift the head and look over the left shoulder and then letting the head rest. 3 minutes on this side. Feeling sensation here in many places, and it may be changing. So we might be feeling it from the knee to the hip to the underarm. We may feel expansion through chest, through abdominal area. We may feel some opening and release through the neck and the shoulder area. Sometimes we experience it in the back as well. If you're tight, often you'll experience it there first, and it may travel, the sensation of this pose, as it begins to release. So at the beginning of the pose, you may know sensation in one particular space, and by the end of the pose, that sensation has traveled. Taking some deep inhales and maybe longer exhales through the mouth to see if there's any more release to be gained, either through that abdominal region, or maybe sometimes we're holding on to sneaky tension in the hip region. Wringing out our day, so letting go of what no longer serves us, and that might be physical, that might be emotional, that might be mental. When you're ready, we'll allow those knees to come back through center. Pausing here in the middle just to give yourself a little wiggle or movement. Gaze comes back up towards the ceiling. Our sides don't have to match, so what felt appropriate on one side, you may want to change. We can have one leg long. This time it will be that we dropped them over the right. So this time it'll be that right knee that draws in and we drop over to the left. We might just simply stack knees to drop over to the left. We might bring that right thigh on top of the left and then drop over. So finding that space that works for you on this side. If you'd like to add that double twist to your spine and your neck allows, we lift the head and we look over to the right, letting the head then rest. 3 minutes here on this side. Maybe taking a moment when you settle into the stillness to notice similarities or differences between sides. Tightness on one side, maybe similarities might be at where you feel it first, or maybe differences are where you sense this stretch first. Just noting for yourself, how does this side feel compared to the other? If it's helpful, drawing in those deep inhales, maybe settling in with those longer exhales. We talk about physically wringing out. We're also energetically wringing out. So those chakras, those 7 main energy centers that travel along the spine, this is a nice little tune-up for those energy centers. Also an opportunity to bring some balance between right and left side energy. We hopefully at some point in our practice and through our process get that energy balance between right and left traveling along that spine. That central channel brings more balance to those chakras as well. Maybe we bring awareness back to breath, breathing into expansion and exhaling into ease or release. When you're ready, we'll bring those knees back through center. Give yourself an opportunity to wiggle to move. We are going to be moving into our final relaxation. I'm going to come up into seated, but the invitation for you is to find a space for yourself that feels like it brings the most ease into the body at this time. It doesn't have to be Shavasana. It can be Shavasana where you're resting on your back. It might be that you're resting on your side or your belly. Maybe there's some other way you would prefer to be resting here in ease. Settling into any space that makes sense for you right now. And as you're finding that space for yourself, maybe take that deep inhale, that longer exhale, settling into the weight of the body wherever it's connected to the mat. Allowing now the body to simply breathe itself. The breath is traveling with ease wherever it chooses to go. We invite the mind to quiet, and perhaps that invitation looks more like longer pauses between thoughts. And for the next few minutes, we invite ourselves to let go of all of the doing of our day and of our hour's practice, and invite ourselves to just simply be, to be resting here in ease, to be resting in well-being, and maybe even resting here with a sense of peace. Beginning to bring awareness back to the sound of my voice, back to the space that you're resting in. Inviting that deeper inhale and that longer exhale. Beginning to reawaken the body, maybe wiggling fingers and toes, circling wrists and ankles. It might feel good to stretch arms overhead. It might feel good to draw knees into chest. In your own way and your own time, we're going to begin to bring ourselves into a seated position that feels comfortable to you. As you come into that comfortable seat, just take one moment more to notice how you're feeling. How are you feeling in the physical body? And maybe also, how are you feeling in the emotional and mental bodies? And if this gesture feels okay to you, we'll place palms together, resting thumbs right in front of our heart. May all be well. May all have peace. And may we all be filled with compassion and loving kindness. The light in me is honored and grateful for the light in each of you. I bow to you. Namaste.